Hey guys, this is Josh Arroy with the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today we're going to talk about how you can go from this to
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today is the 21st of June, 2025, a little bit after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all for joining us today. I know it's probably hot where the majority of you are. We've talked about the weather here before the meeting, and I know the summer's heating up. I wanted to say before we get started with the meeting, this will be our last meeting that we have until August the 9th. So usually we have one meeting a month for June, July, and August. And because we've had three this month, we've decided to take July off, and then we'll start back in August. And then in September, we'll do weekly meetings like we normally do. I'll put all that out on social media so everybody's aware. But the next meeting will be with Catherine Overcash, and that's August the 9th. So go ahead and put that on your calendar, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I've got several people lined up that want to do meetings. I know that Jim Heiser is going to be doing one. There's a few other people that I've talked to that they say, just let me know when you want me to come on. So we should have a good lineup in the fall. But again, just watch social media. I'll post it all out there. Want to let you know about, once again, the Carving the Rockies show. CCA is getting geared up for that. Again, that's September 20th and 21st out in Colorado Springs, Colorado. If you hadn't made plans, you need to make plans. I know there's a fireman convention, some kind of road race that's going on out there. And so hotel rooms may be a little sparse. So if you're planning on going, try to book it early so that you can get out there. It's a great time, great weekend of caricature carving, all kinds of stuff going on as far as the whittling competition and demonstrations and the ugly cowboy competition stuff. If you haven't been, it's one of the best carving events that I know of that's available. So try to make it out there. Some of the things that are coming up as far as workshops through the summer. I want to tell you a little bit about those. Dwayne Gosnell's got several lined up. He does, I think he calls it Whittle Tuesdays. His next class is going to be July 8th on patriotism. He's got one in August and one in September. If you're interested in those, reach out to Dwayne Gosnell. You can check out his website, and he'll be happy to get you signed up for those. Ryan Olson has a class on getting specific as far as caricature carvings that you design to look like a specific person. That's starting on August the 2nd. And then Dale Green, who's on our meeting today, has a class starting October 4th. That's on sports and holidays shorties. So there's quite a few things to get involved in that's coming up this summer. I want to remind you all about Woodcarving Academy. I haven't talked about it a lot here lately, but if you're not subscribing to that, you should go out. You can take classes at your own pace. A lot of these seminars that they've had in the past, they've recorded and put them out there. So if there's something that you missed, you may be able to go out on there and take the class after the fact and work through the project at your own pace. All of the patterns and things are available. If you need a rough out, you can reach out to the instructor. Just a wealth of information out there on Woodcarving Academy. So make sure you check that out and try to subscribe there if you're not already doing that. Today on our meeting, we've got a special guest, Josh Arroyo. He's been on with us before. He's going to be talking about a controversial topic, but I think he's going to be able to open some people's eyes about how you can use it for your benefit as far as carving goes. We're talking about artificial intelligence or AI. Before we get to Josh, though, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our very own Dave Stetson, who's going to be doing our words of wisdom. Dave, welcome back. I know you've been traveling a lot. We look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Yeah, I'm going to share a note that I made while I was driving, actually. Driving through Iowa, heading east between Des Moines and Davenport, I pulled into a rest area. And it was close to the home of Herbert Hoover, where his birthplace was. And as I was walking into the rest area, there was signage all around. And one of them claimed that Iowa claims to be the center for writers in America. And I had never known that, but now I know. The takeaway from this is that education, knowledge is good for the mind. and rest stops are good for the bladder.
All right, Dave. Dave's been to Utah and I think Iowa and everywhere in between. So he's definitely probably visited several rest stops. We appreciate you sharing that information with us. And again, welcome back. We always look forward to having you on, Dave. Back to Woodcarving Academy. Dave has quite a few seminars out there that you can work through at your own pace again. So if you're looking for some good classes to take, trust me, there's tons out there, tons of information that'll be able to push you further in your carving journey. So make sure you go out and check those out. Again, on our meeting today, we got Josh Arroyo. He's coming to us from Orlando, Florida. Josh has been on with us before. Today he's going to be talking to us about using AI, developing patterns, coming up with projects, using it to your advantage. AI is not all bad. We do see pictures out on Facebook and social media about, oh, look at this wood carving. Well, it's not really a wood carving. It's an AI generated picture. So we're going to kind of dive deep into that subject and figure out a way that we can use that to our benefit. So Josh, appreciate you developing this. Look forward to hearing what you have to share with us. And I will go ahead and turn it over to you, my friend.
Awesome. All right, let's see. Do I later? All right, you guys can hear me okay?
You're good.
Perfect. All right, thanks for having me, y'all. This will be fun. I hope somebody out there gets something out of it. I've been using it quite a bit over the last few months. I'll show you a little bit of that, but I just want to kind of lay the groundwork before we dive in. I know AI and wood carving kind of seem like a contradiction, but it can be surprisingly simple and an effective tool depending on how far you want to go with it. I think it's important to remember with tools like this that I think it makes you more of what you already are. So if you're a hyper creative person, then this is a tool that's going to make you even more creative. If you tend to be a lazy carver that doesn't want to put a lot of thought into the stuff that you're doing, you just want to have a good time, this is probably not going to do much for you. If you are somebody that struggles with creativity but wants to improve, then this is gonna help you improve. It's also important to note that AI is rapidly evolving. I mean, it has changed from the time I started using it a few months ago. For carving, it's already radically better than when I started, and every day is bringing more and more developments, more and more new stuff. I'm not an expert. I'm just a really curious person. I kind of have an insatiable curiosity about most things, and I love to learn. And I'm not above anything that might help push me in terms of that growth. So, what you're going to hear is what I understand at this exact moment, knowing that tomorrow they could push out a new update and it changes completely. That said, general, the broad brushstrokes of it have kind of stayed consistent. So it's not like I think this will be pretty evergreen unless they start taking over the world, and then we might have bigger problems. There are different kinds of AI. So depending on your use case, what you're trying to use it for, there's different versions. I've chose to focus on one, and that's probably the most popular one. ChatGPT, you've probably heard it everywhere. But there are others: Perplexity, Claude, Copilot for Microsoft. Everyone has a kind of niche that they kind of fall into. There is a lot of overlap, but ChatGPT tends to be considered at the moment the most general one to use. It has a broad range of applications, but there are also ones that help you with generating 3D models versus what I'm going to show you guys today. So out of curiosity, I don't know if there's an easy way to do this, Blake. I mean, how many folks in the room have you used AI before? I know it's popular in offices now. I use it in my office all the time for a lot of menial tasks. But I mean, if I'd be very curious if people throw in the chat whether or not they've had experience before, or is it a completely green room as far as AI is concerned?
Yeah, it looks like there's several people raising their hands, so they're using that raise the hand function.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So a lot of this may be familiar, but hopefully it's something new. For those of you that haven't, and you haven't seen it before, it might blow your mind. So let's dive in. So what is ChatGPT? What is this artificial intelligence? If you can show my iPad, Blake or Dave, that'd be great. Pop it up on the screen here. Oh, it helps if I share, doesn't it? Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. So this, in all its glory, is ChatGPT. We are looking into the void. It doesn't look like a whole lot right now. I can open up the sidebar here if it will let me. That's usually up there, but this is it. So for those of you that have worked with tech, it's not Google, but you can think of it as Google on steroids. I like to think of it as the stupidest smart person I know, and that'll make more sense as we get in deeper. It is a free program at the moment, with the full knowledge that any tech product that is free, it usually means that you're the product, you're the thing that's being sold. So it is free. You don't have to pay for it. You can get most of what I'm going to talk about from the free version. I have for this session paid for the updated one. So with ChatGPT, just like Microsoft has version 1, 2, 3, iOS has version 18.1, whatever, blah, blah, blah. ChatGPT is no different. As they roll out updates, there are new versions. They are more advanced, and you pay for greater access to the more advanced version. After you've used the more advanced one on the free account for a little bit, they knock you down to a previous version because there is quite a bit of server and bandwidth use on that larger, more advanced rollout. So, but that said, you don't need the paid trial. All right. So how does it work? And this is something you can probably bring back my my face so that they're not just staring at a blank screen, Dave. So ChatGPT is what's called an LLM. It's a large language model.
Josh, you'll have to stop sharing that screen.
Oh, thank you. I knew we paid you for a reason here. There we go. Perfect. All right. So it's called an LLM, a large language model. An emphasis on the word language. I think if you understand that it was trained on language, it's easier to maximize its use. So it's a learning program. It's a piece of software that was fed a lot of information, terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of information. Think everything that was online pretty much before 2023, last I checked, was fed into this program. Every book, manual, conversation, articles, words, all words, pumped into this program. And what it does is it trained on these words and trained to recognize patterns in language, okay? Not facts, it's not Google. It's not going to spit out a fact. It has facts, sometimes they are right, but sometimes they're very much not right. If you paid attention to the news, you've heard this before, but it was trained on language. So you can think of it, because it was trained on language and patterns, it's more of a pattern recognition tool. So you can think of it as a friend, if you want to focus on the area of wood carving. As a wood carver, imagine that guy. We all have him in the club. He's been carving, doing woodwork for 50 years. He knows the moisture reading on every piece of wood. He knows if you cut this, it's going to drop by 3/32 of an inch, and you're going to do this, and then you're going to take it to the plant. He can tell you everything about how to build everything because he's done it for so long. He's read every book. He's experienced everything. It's kind of like that. Every piece of information's been fed in. It has this massive knowledge, so it can look for patterns across all this information. So what does that look like? Easiest example, if you were to ask ChatGPT like Google, and you wouldn't want to use it this way, but you could. If you asked it, what colors should I use to paint a bear? what it's looking through is every piece of text that it was fed, those terabytes of information, and it will respond with colors like black, brown, burnt umber, burnt sienna, whatever the case is, not because it knows that those are the colors, but because those colors came up repeatedly in the information that it was fed. So it synthesized that information and basically says, okay, bear's often associated with burnt umber, raw sienna, often in this order based on this, this, this. So it's going to spit out a response based on those patterns in a way that makes sense. Hopefully that's clear. It's kind of a lot to wrap your head around, but that's the gist of how it works. Yeah, so we'll kind of put a cap in that. We can go a lot deeper into it as far as the tech goes, but that's the general gist. I think if you understand that it was trained on language and patterns, it does help to use it more effectively. That brings us to kind of the next thing, the ethics. And this is where a lot of people start getting really, artists especially, rightfully so. And it's very understandable. I can't argue with it. But nobody that wrote those books, wrote those manuals, had those conversations, those articles, really consented to have them used for training a programming tool like this. And that's at the core of kind of a lot of this ethics, these ethics questions. It was without consent, without financial remuneration. Artists spend hours, years, lifetimes developing their work. They put it online, and now an AI is reading it and using it. Now, it's not copying their work. It is looking for patterns in their work and relationships, and the images work a little bit differently than the language. But if you were an artist that put stuff online, it makes sense. I didn't agree. I do a lot of digital art. I know it's probably been used to train an AI. You can see it on my Instagram. I didn't agree to that, but that's one of the frustrations artists have, and so they will boycott the AI, and that is absolutely their prerogative. I totally see it, and if that's your belief, all the more I got nothing for you. It's a completely legitimate frustration. Similarly, there's a fear it's going to take jobs, the creatives. Blake and I were talking about this. Animation, filmmaking, hand-drawn animation. It's something that's really close to my heart. I mean, I'm a Disney guy through and through. I'm wearing a Rafiki shirt. I live 45 minutes from the mouse. Hand-drawn animation is my jam, and it's one of my favorite things to study and learn about. But there is a concern that it's going to go the way of AI and artificial intelligence. It's possible. It doesn't worry, but it doesn't stress me out because I think if as a human being and if you're part of the human experience, anything that humans enjoy or do creatively is always going to have a market for it. That's my belief. So, for every one of me that loves hand-drawn animation, there's a million more who will go see hand-drawn animation type movie, and they will want them. And I think as much as people want them, there will be people that make them. It will change the size of the market, sure, and it'll look different, but that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're already kind of seeing a return to that. As AI is developing, we are still hearing that Disney's bringing back their hand-drawn animation stuff and going back to hand-drawn artists. So what happens, who knows? But I don't worry too much about it. The ethics piece, at the end of the day, you have to make your own decision about what you think and what you feel comfortable with. It's not copying the work, but it's learning from the styles and the influence and the stuff that it was fed. So as wood carvers, I think we're in a very different spot. Our art form is, there are AIs that are producing art. We know that CNC is becoming a thing, and there's definitely a place for it. It is a tool, and it's not inherently bad, but it is different than us taking gouges and knives and producing work with our own two hands. there are AI tools producing stuff out of straight marble and Michelangelo level marble creations through CNC bits and artificial intelligence programming. I mean, it's out there. But again, there will be people that want to use their hands for wood carving. And so long as there is that, there will always be a place for it. And this can just enhance what we already do. So if you guys can bring me back to the iPad here, I'm gonna share it again. All right, so we're gonna try something here, but before we dive in to it, I just want to give you guys, for those of you that are gonna go into it and try to use ChatGPT, I'm gonna give you just 3 tips to think about as your first time using it. Again, you can download this program on it's a web app. So if you can go to chatgpt.com on your computer at home, sign up there. I use it on my iPad. I use it on my phone every day. So it works everywhere. Once you create your account, it'll show up on your iPad, your phone, and your computer. It's the same account. So whatever searches you do or processing that you run, it's going to be everywhere. All right, so my 3 big tips for using it effectively, and then we're going to dive in and use it. Treat it like an idiot. And this is going to be the hardest thing for any new user. I think it was tricky for me to understand. This is not a human being, though it's going to respond like one. It is a child. You have to ask, you make no assumptions in what you're asking it. Any of you that have kids or have worked with kids, and where does rain come from? The clouds. How does it come from the clouds? And they can keep asking why. And the more they keep asking why, the more you kind of realize, oh, there's a lot more to the answer than what the answer I gave was. I gave a very simple version. Well, this ChatGPT, it's going to take what you asked it. It will extrapolate to some extent, but if you're not clear about what you want, you're going to be fighting it. So you have to be explicitly clear about what you want. So I'm going to give you a verbal example, and we'll get into it real soon, I promise. I don't want to type into this box, give me an idea for a carving. Think of how many unknowns that opens up. Well, what kind of carving? What size carving? Am I carving relief? Am I carving it in the round? Am I carving it with, out of wood? Or am I carving stone? Like, there are so many extra layers, and that's the level of specificity you want to maximize use of ChatGPT. So hyper specific and detailed. Be very, very clear. I'm going to simplify it down when we start here in a second. But as you use it, you want to, no detail is too small, because remember, it was trained on language. So the more details and information you give it, the more context you give it. So it knows, remember, all those billions of terabytes of information, it knows, okay, more context I can pull from here. This pattern makes sense here. All of these spaces together can be fed into the prompt. So give me ideas for a carving isn't a great prompt. But here's a better example, and I made notes, so I apologize if I keep looking down. Bad example, give me ideas for a carving. Good example, I want a 5-inch caricature of an old Florida fisherman with a scruffy beard, hunched posture, a big sun hat. I want it to be able to fit in the palm of my hand. I want to be able to carve it in a couple hours with only a knife. I want a humorous expression. I want exaggerated nose and belly. Give me pose ideas, key features to exaggerate, and the rough block size I should start with. So I read all that quickly, but that's the level of detail I can put in and get a very, very good response. So that's my first tip. Second tip, think of it like a creative partner. If you've got somebody that you like to workshop ideas with, I've got a couple of mentors that I feel very comfortable texting, shooting a phone call and being like, hey, this is my idea. Help me workshop this. And they will say, well, you want to think about carving this separately because of integrity issues with the wood grain. Think about this. You might want to use butternut because of this over the basswood. You might want to do oak because it's being used for this. Whatever the case is, that creative partner is going to be someone to feed off of. think of ChatGPT like this. This is not a Google search. This is think of it like a person, not a search engine. So an example of a question, you don't want to say, what's a good wood finish? All right. It's a creative partner. I want to say, hey, I carve basswood. I need a finish that's going to give me a soft sheen, non-toxic, easy to apply. Can you give me what my options are? And it's going to respond like a creative partner. And then the last tip, it is like it was trained on language. The more you read its response, the more you can iterate. So if it gives you something back and you're like, not what I was thinking, I really was thinking more along this line, tell it that in your next question or your response. And it will keep iterating again and again and again the response that it gives you to get you to a place where you guys are more focused in on what you were hoping to get. So let's dive in. I'm going to show you the 3 ways that I use it. The longest one is going to be for idea generation. And I think this is probably the most powerful, applicable one for most of us in the room. So one thing to keep in mind, and this is, if you saw my last talk, I kind of waxed philosophical about things. It was a language tool. I'm going to keep saying that. It was built on language. So I think it's one of its most important areas where it can be applied is the use of storytelling in wood carving. The best wood carvings, we were just talking about that. I just came back from Minnesota to see Marv Kaisersat's work in his shop. The thing that makes Marv amazing, and I don't care who it is, pick your favorite CCA carver out there. And the almost consistent through line that you are going to see is every piece is telling some sort of a story. If you like the carving, it's because there was a story associated with the carving. And it doesn't have to be a lot. I'll give you a really quick example. I have on the docket of things I want to do. I'm expecting my first kiddo in a couple months. And I wanted to do a Winnie the Pooh relief. Ray Kinman is a big influence of mine. I found a picture of Winnie the Pooh floating away in balloons. Great. It's an awesome thing. I was going to use a router, hand tools, make the relief. How do I make that better? Winnie the Pooh with the balloons reaching for a thing of honey, right? Now I've changed it from a relief carving to a story. There's conflict, right? He's being pulled away by the balloons, but he wants the honey. I use that as a simple example, but we can add that in our work with very little extra effort, but a little extra forethought before we start carving. So since this was a language tool and we're using it to generate ideas, I think it's important to focus in on what is the story that the idea we're going to use or we're going to go with is going to tell. So, so if we could throw in the chat, somebody type in an occupation. We're gonna do this from scratch. Hopefully this works. This could all crash and burn, but don't worry, I already did it ahead of time and I carved a piece. I'll show you guys what I came up with. But USAF pilot. All right, that was the first one. Okay, so I'm going to go into my AI and I'm going to try and do a prompt. I'm going to tell it to act as a caricature carver. Okay, what am I doing here? I'm telling it what perspective I want it to come from. I want you to come from the mindset of a caricature carver. I'm going to also say act as a caricature carver and cartoonist. And I'm making this up as I go. Why am I saying cartoonist? I've used AI for a couple of times. We are caricature, exaggerated realism, cartoon. The humor style is very similar, right? We can pull from both. So I want it to be thinking caricature and cartoon. But I could just as well change this. It doesn't have to be a cartoonist. I could tell it to act as a caricature carver and a Navy veteran or an Air Force veteran. And now it's going to come at it. Let me think of it from the perspective of a veteran or somebody that served in the military. it will maybe give me a different response. So this is where there's a little bit of creativity to using it. Now I'm going to ask it, give me 10 ideas for a wood carving of a USAF pilot. Okay. Now, I'm thinking as I type these things, can I be more specific? Because this is pretty general. I'm going to say, I want it to be humorous. And relatable. I want the people that see it to be able to relate to it. This is going to be a caricature carving in the round, about 6 inches tall. Okay, not 6 feet. That's a chainsaw carving. Come on.
Hey, Josh, somebody's asking if it'll recognize USAF.
It will. It will. Remember, it was trained on patterns. So USAF, it's going to look at USAF. It's going to see pilot. And even if I spelt it wrong, it will often say, I think you meant this. And 99% of the time, it is 100% right. That is exactly what I meant, because it's looking at context. So I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to see what we get. We asked it for 10 ideas. They may not be great, but we'll see. All right, notice how quickly it spit out the ideas. This took millisecond. So for those of you who maybe can't read it, absolutely. Here are 10 humorous and relatable caricature carving ideas for a USAF pilot designed for a 6-inch tall carving in the round. These are meant to be visually funny, character-driven, and loading with storytelling potential. All right, we'll go through a couple of these. A cocky fighter pilot in full flight suit, but standing on the ground holding a toy jet like it's the real thing. Don't knock the idea yet, all right? This is brainstorming. What do I like this concept? I think it's kind of funny to have a really beefy USAF pilot in full regalia, swag, everything there, holding a little toy airplane. That might tell a story that I like. Jet lagged, exhausted pilot slumped over, eyes drooping, still in full gear, coffee mug in one hand and flight manual upside down in the other. Again, I'm not a pilot. I'm not a veteran. God bless you all. Thank you guys so much for your service. But I think that's kind of funny. I think that'd be great. I know pilots put long shifts, and the upside down manual, I think, is a great little tweak. A wide-eyed new pilot with a flight helmet that's way too big, parachute pack still dragging behind him, and a panicked look. So maybe the story is the parachute didn't open and he made it to the ground and he's praying to his God, oh, you know, why am I doing this? What else we got? Oxygen hog, pilot with a comically oversized oxygen mask and tank strapped to his back, goggles fogged up, looking confused. Helmet hair hero, pilot just took off his helmet, now has wild flattened hair with a perfect helmet ring imprint. Pilot pointing proudly to a hilariously tiny model of a fighter jet on a stand next to him while a much bigger one looms behind. All right, that one's a great story. That tells a wonderful story. I kind of like number 6. A pilot in dreamy bliss, floating or standing on a literal cartoon cloud, hearts in his eyes. Pilot in full gear with a game controller instead of flight control. He's mid-yell at the screen. Pilot dragging a mountain of gear bags, tangled cords, manuals, and gadgets strapped all over him. A normal-looking guy, dad bod, slightly goofy grin, striking a heroic pose in a flight suit 2 sizes too big. Okay, so we got 10 ideas. Do we like them? Do we not like them? This is where we go into iterate. Is there something here that I want to expand upon? Was it what I was looking for? Sometimes in the past, I've used okay, I like this, but maybe I want the humor or the story to be more slapstick. Maybe there's something with more of a slapstick comedic overtone for a pilot that I could use. So I might say, make the humor more slapstick, make the humor more, more Charlie Chaplin esque, and maybe that'll initiate a sort of movement aspect to the ideas. I don't know. I like number two. So I'm going to expand on number two because I think where we're going with it, I think that'll give me the best. So, and if there are any questions, Blake, Dave, just let me know as I go along, so we don't get too far along.
Hey, Josh, there is one other question in the chat.
Yeah.
They want to know if it requires a phrase, which I think you've kind of elaborated on that, or will keywords just be enough? So if somebody just put in a list of keywords, would that be enough?
You probably could. I would talk to it like a person. I wouldn't just put keywords. I would use language like we would use it for a person. I don't know what it would do. I can't say I know what it would do because I haven't used it like that, but it probably would return something related. We can test it in a second. Once we get through it, I'm happy to try keywords and see what it gives us.
Okay.
All right. So number two, I like it, but it gave me a very rough idea. Okay. I like the 5-hour energy bottle in its pocket. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. It decided to do an update for my computer. That's fine. All right. Now I'm going to tell it. I'm going to keep it very simple. Elaborate on number two. All right. Let's see what it gives us. This is the iterating part, right? I am telling it, I want you to give me more. All right. Look at the level of detail this is spitting out. Okay. Core concept. And a comically exhausted USAF pilot still in uniform, but totally fried. Been flying too long, running on fumes and caffeine, and it shows. The idea is to play with the contradiction of someone who's supposed to be razor sharp, but looks like he survived 3 Red Bull fueled war games and a surprise inspection. All right. A lot of humor already in that. So let's just go through what it gave us. Carving design, posing, slouch posture, head tilted, right hand holding a classic white mug that says #1 pilot, liquid jet fuel coffee with some coffee sloshing out, holding a flight manual upside down, dragging it on the ground, helmet dangling from a strap in one hand or lying on the ground next to him with a crack in the visor for comic effect. Okay, so this is where I think, back to the idea of story and back to the idea of what thoughts do I want to put into the carving before we even start? Okay. Movement, storytelling, interest. What does tired look like? Eyes rolling in the back of the head, coffee sloshing around, right? If I'm tired, the coffee is going to be maybe tilted in my hand. It looks like it's about to fall out of the thing. My eyes are drooping. The manual is upside down. My hands are limp. My neck is limped and kinked to the side. These are the things that this is triggering us to think about. Now, once you get into this level of detail, we're at like, you got to be a pretty good carver to pull this off, right? With this level of detail. But a lot of us in this room are. And if you're not, this may be the impetus to push you to try a new set of skills. When you see the one that I came up with, there were things I had never done before, and I got pretty good at because of it. Already talked about the facial expression, mouth slightly open, 5 o'clock shadow, exaggerated nose or ears, drool trail. Now we're drool trail optional. Now I'm thinking about the scene. If I'm going to enter this into a competition of some kind, what is the scene? What's going to be around it? Those little details that the judges will notice. Maybe no one else will. You'll know it's there. All that stuff adds up. Flight suit details. I love the name tag, Lieutenant Crashmore, Major No Sleep. that is right up there with the type of humor that caricature carvers love. I love the Lieutenant Crashmore idea. Give me ideas for bases. Optional gags, sticky notes stuck to his back, wake me up before takeoff. Clipboard hanging from one boot with mission debrief scrawled on it. Mini snoring Z's floating above his head if you're feeling whimsical. Okay.
Hey, Josh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this is Steve. I'm wondering, it seems to me like we're getting way down into the weeds of this thing. Can you just start like with the beginning of the your idea number 2, have it throw out an image and then begin to modify off of that, or do you have to get all these details in before you can get the picture?
Yes and no. And the reason why I'm doing this to this level of detail is eventually I am going to get to the point where I ask it for an image. The thing with AI images and patterns is they require that level of detail for the image to come back approximating what it is that I want. And you'll see in a second, I'm going to ask it to create the thing I need to request the image. Now, note that the only thing that I got really intense about was that first prompt. I spent a little bit of extra time with this first prompt because I want to get as close. I could have said, give me an idea for a USAF pilot, and it would have given me stuff. But I would have had to have been like, okay, well, make it funnier. Okay, well, it's not going to be a relief carving. It's going to be a caricature carving. And I would have had to refine my result through multiple questions. So I spent a little bit of time at the beginning, but this was spit out from that. And now you're going to see that everything I do from here on out is going to be one sentence things. I'm not going to get into the weeds any deeper than this, now that it's got the rough beginnings of where I want to go with it. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it answers the question. I'm not sure I like the answer, but
no,
it
yeah,
answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. Let's wait to the end, and we'll see if it doesn't work itself out, because I think it will. Okay, so we've got the rough idea. I like it. If I wanted to change something, I would change it. Now I'd be like, hey, can we add this? And I might talk to it some more. But I like where it's at for now. Okay, now I'm going to tell it, write me a prompt. Now this is where it gets really wild, y'all. I am now going to ask it to take everything that it just gave me, rewrite it in a way that I can use it to then ask it again to create an image. I don't know if that made sense, but it's a wildly circuitous little thing that makes me laugh, because we're reaching the end of the world now, because we're asking the AI to ask something of itself. Hilarious. Write me a prompt that I can use to generate a pattern. Slash detailed sketch slash mockup. Right. Let's see what it does. Okay. Now, it took everything that we just saw and it put it into a simple paragraph. Create a detailed front-facing and 3/4 view character sketch of a comically exhausted USAF pilot. Caricature approximately 6 inches tall. The pilot is slouched, standing wearily in a wrinkled flight suit with sagging shoulders, one boot untied, messy patches. His eyes are heavy lidded and bloodshot with deep bags under his eyes, slack jawed, sleepy expression. He's holding a steaming coffee mug, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we've got it. Now I'm going to tell it, use this to generate the sketch. All right, if this goes great, we'll have something we can use. If it doesn't go great, we'll have to start again. Now, this may take a moment, but it's now taking everything that we fed it, and it's now going into, it's technically a separate AI. If you've heard of Dolly, Dolly is an image generating AI that is now integrated into ChatGPT. So you can now use just ChatGPT and Dolly within the same interface. But it is generating, and we'll see what we get.
Hey, Josh, quick question.
Yeah.
So that description that you had there before, it said a front facing and a 3/4 facing image. Will you be able to go in and edit that so that you get a front and a side view for like a pattern?
I can, and you'll actually see that happened with mine. My initial one that I did when I show you guys what I came up with. And I had to keep refining it. So in retrospect, I probably should have taken the 3/4 view. So once it comes through, I'll actually refine it and say, I need this completely in profile and completely front facing, and we'll see if it does it.
Okay.
But already here, we've got a kind of an interesting go by. It's still processing, but we can get the rough vibe of the sketch that we're looking for. I think someone said in the chat, it kind of gives Chris Hammock vibes. I was thinking the same thing, which is kind of funny. But I don't know what it was generated off of, so here is our guy. Now, if you are an artist, if you're somebody like me that draws a lot, I can take this. I can take this. I don't need to use it anymore. I will take this to my iPad in Procreate, and I can make a front-facing view, side view sketch of this, and I'd have my pattern. I'd probably be done. But if you are not, I can iterate again. So I can tell it, this is perfect. I need the image adjusted to reflect a front-facing view and a profile view. 3/4 view won't work for cutting out a pattern on a bandsaw. Now, I could probably have made this simpler, but again, I'm thinking context. It doesn't know that I'm going to take this to a bandsaw. It might know. I don't underneath all the tech, but I don't know. So I'm going to ask it to do it again.
And while that's generating, a couple more questions in the chat. Dale wants to know why size is important. Can any pattern be resized? So you said 5-6 inches. Do you have to specify the size?
Probably not. Yeah, I think in my head, I want it to be thinking that what it gives me is something that's going to work for the size I want. So, if I was doing, like y'all may know, my miniatures, I'm not going to do the same thing on a miniature this size that I would do on a 6-inch tall figure. I can get more detail out of that. So I don't know that that's I don't know that it makes a difference. It's hard to know. But you could try it. You could just as easily try it.
And then there's another question about color. Can you do it in color? Or can you ask it to go ahead and color it? Will it pick the colors for you? I know you said maybe that you might be talking about something as far as colors go. So.
Yeah, I'll talk about colors in a little bit. That's kind of like my second most common use. So, some of y'all in here, I call friends, that I am colorblind. I am partially colorblind. And it is very hard for me to see how to mix colors, what colors give me other colors, how to think about shading and base tones and stuff like that. I was the kid that if the crayon box didn't have the wrapper on the outside, I was screwed. So I often ask it for help with for coloring. So this is my front-facing view now. So I could refine it. I could refine it even more, but this is enough for the front of the pattern. And I could go with this. I could then ask it for the 3/4 view, and we could run the profile view, and we can go with it there. Obviously, stuff can be changed, right? That helmet is way too small for that head. The body is short and squatty. I kind of like it. I think it makes sense for caricature. It helps give me a sense of expression. I don't like his face. I think he looks miserable as opposed to tired or sleepy. I might change it to look a little sleepier. But again, this gets you on the path to a working carving. Let's see if we can do. Can you generate another in profile? I'm thinking I want him looking with the body turned to the right. Will it think to the right, my right, or to the character's right? Let's say to the character's left. I don't know if this will make a difference. I'm thinking if I'm going to create a pattern, I want to see the arm holding the coffee because that's going to be harder to carve than the manual. So I think I want to see that. But let's see. Now notice, so to generate images, remember I was talking about different versions. So again, I paid for the pro version, which gives me access to the more advanced AI. If you use the free version, you're only going to get so many image generations before it knocks you back to the previous version where the images may not be able to be generated or will be less accurate. In the last few months, this Dolly tool has gotten so much better than it was a year ago. So who knows what the next couple of months will bring.
And with the prompts, can you age the figure if you decide, well, I want him to look older? I want him to look.
I should be able to. We can try it in a second. Yeah. And I think he would look better and more interesting older. I agree. Now, I said I wanted it to generate it in profile with the body turned to the character's left. It turned it to the character's right. It's one of those things. I can ask it again, but yeah, I can make it work just as well. It won't change how I would cut this off. The other thing I'd point out too, and I'll talk about this with the one that I carved. Again, an experienced carver is going to be looking at this and is going to be able to see the pitfalls in the pattern, right? So this would be a fairly easy piece to carve. There's not a lot of movement in it. I might ask it to give more movement, and we could see what happens. But you have to also add your knowledge as a wood carver, right? This arm sticking out, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to carve because the grain is going to be working against you. So maybe you want to carve the hand separately with the grain adjusted, and then reattach the arm to the sleeve. That's something to think about, but the AI is not going to know that. That's where your skill as a carver is going to come in. So now I've got a front view, I've got a side view. It's not perfect. Notice that the boots are kind of kinked at a 3/4 view just a little bit. So when I tweak this, I will redraw it, but I'd be 99% of the way there in order to go with it. We asked if we could age the figure. Can we age the sketch? Now, when I look at this, I think, can we age the sketch? Remember, this is a dumb computer. It might understand that I mean age the person in the sketch. It might say, I want to make the sketch look old itself, like it was drawn on papyrus. I don't know what it's going to do. So I am going to clarify, can we age the sketch? I want the character to look older. And that's what I meant about treat it like a dumb person. You know, you've got to be specific.
While it's generating, Josh, somebody wants to know, if you don't mind, to tell them how much is the paid software.
The paid version is $20 a month, and it's a subscription-based program. So, but again, there is the free option, and the image generation, I think, resets every 24 hours with the latest version of ChatGPT as of now. Whether that happens in a few months, whether that's the same in a few months, I don't know. But we're playing. So while this is generating, just kind of recap, this is again, we're kind of an hour in. We could very much tweak this and keep playing with this until the cows come home, and refining and adding and refining and adding. But this is just one approach. So, so already we're seeing that the character looks aged. Now, what's really interesting, it looks like an aged version of the previous pattern, which is wild to me. So that, you know, that may have a use case. You know, I think it'd be kind of interesting if you were going to do a carving for a competition where maybe you do 5 heads, and you do, you know, baby, teenager, adult, old man, coffin, you know, and maybe there's some humor in that for a carving competition. But what would the same face aged look like in a cartoon pattern type style? Maybe helpful. I don't know. It's spitballing ideas, but I think that's a great. Again, like I said, this is a great start. So that's the first part. That's really what I had for the first part. We can go much further. Like I said, this one kind of tells a story. I think I'd like it to tell a better story. To look at it, I think I'd like a little bit more movement in it. I'd probably adjust the tilt of the head and make him look a little bit more tired. I'd probably, you know, maybe look like maybe he's walking and he's tripping a little bit. I don't know.
Hey, Josh, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You've worked with this for a little bit, so you've been able to give us some thought. Do you feel that a program like this in a competition situation would give somebody an unfair advantage?
An unfair advantage.
Standpoint of somebody who might be judging the competition. I mean, is there a way to determine whether somebody is being helped along, or are they coming up with original stuff? Because that's always been that's been something that judges have tried to judge on. Is it an original idea? So is this an original idea because you've been prompting a program to do it for you?
So I got a couple of initial thoughts, and I'll be honest. So I made the suggestion for this talk because I think it's a useful tool for what I call the ancillary things that carving entails that I struggle with, like color, for example, which I'll show an example of in a second. For this talk, I asked it, prompted, used the prompt, did a wood carving, and followed it from start to finish, which I'll show in a second. So as far as the philosophical aspect of something like that, I don't know. I struggle a little bit. When you see what I came up with, I'll kind of talk about what I feel. I think there's that old saying, you know, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you're going to have a problem, right? or something like that. And I think, like, as a wood carver, where do we draw the line between what it is that we are looking at, right? Having started it, having done my pattern from the prompt to the pattern, then to the carving, this was probably the hardest carving I've ever carved. When you see it, it had aspects to it that were I'd never done before. I never had to think about before. It took a lot of forward thought from the skill of carving perspective that I think has some merit, because I don't think somebody at a lesser skill level probably would have come up with the result that I came up with. Now, if we want to measure my skill as a carver, or my ability to be judged on how well I can draw, right? Because that's like that middle piece, right? My ability to draw a pattern that's worthwhile feels to me like a little bit of a different skill set than the ability to carve. No doubt that they are connected, like I can't disconnect them, but it does feel like that's a different skill set. So if you're someone that struggles with being able to draw, then this is helping you over a very intermediary hurdle on the way to a finished carving. If you're struggling with the idea, but then you can draw, well, then maybe this helps you with the first part. Okay, I love the idea of this jet lag pilot. I can draw and do the second part, then I can do the carving. So I don't know, Dave. It's hard to say.
You want to think on this more and get back to us?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my thoughts on my piece at the end, because I do have a feeling that I think relates.
Fair enough.
I think you'd be very interested to hear that piece, which I think answers a little bit of your question. All right, how much time do we have, Dave, Blake?
You're right at 4 o'clock. No, if we run another 30, 45 minutes, we'll be fine. I don't know how much time you need, but
yeah, I probably need another 15 minutes.
Yeah, we're not under any time constraints, so you're fine.
Okay, so we'll pause the pattern stuff. Like I said, you can get deeper and dive deeper. Yeah, I think so. We'll leave it at that. I can always talk more. The second way I think this could be used is process. So one of the, like I said, I struggle with paint. Not paint. I can paint. I struggle with use of color. So and how to see color. So I had a cowboy carving that I wanted to paint brass. I wanted to paint an aspect of it brass, but I didn't want to use brass paint. I wanted to stick with my watered acrylics because I didn't want a metallic looking thing. So I can ask it for help doing that. So I am a wood carver painting over a carving with watered down acrylics. The wood was pre-treated with linseed oil. I need to paint a buckle to look brass. Can you help me with the colors and steps? All right. So when I say I use AI for wood carving, this is the kind of stuff that I predominantly use it for, because this is my area of struggle. I don't have a piece of brass handy, and it's hard for me to look and see that color is burnt sienna, that undertone is burnt umber. There's going to be a little bit of yellow and primary yellow for the shadows. There's going to be white. There's going to be black for tarnish. Like that is hard for me to see. Now I could practice, I could do it. And I'm still going to have to practice it, but this will get me closer. So if I were to stop here, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber, titanium white, Payne's gray. For somebody like me that struggles with color, that takes me 75% of the way in terms of what colors do I need to pull from my box. The rest, I can play with, but it helps. Mix yellow ochre with burnt sienna, apply a base color. Add some depth using burnt umber and yellow ochre around the edges. Darken the crevices. Highlight with a warm, light yellow ochre titanium white. All right. So this is a very simple use case. Again, you can take it, you can leave it, but if you struggle with something like color or process, this is again a tool. That's the second one. I have wondered what it would look like in terms of helping with the process of carving. I don't think it helps at all. Asking it what order to do things as a carver, it's not great. What it said was not very helpful, and the only way to figure it out is to do it and get in the trenches. So, and the last thing before I kind of show you what I came up with is, and this is what I use it in my office for stuff like this too, in my line of work. I can write, I got a master's degree. I wrote a lot of stuff. But sometimes you're just writing stuff that doesn't take a lot of thought, and I just need it to be done. So some of the business aspects of carving that you don't really care, give or take. So I was asked to give a class on wood carving at my local library. So they said, can you give me a class description of what it entails? And I was like, yeah, I knew what I wanted. So I prompted ChatGPT to write it up for me. And I took it to Word and I revised what it gave me and I submitted it, and we're going to do the class in January. But something like this: write me a class description for a intro to whittling class at my local library in Orlando, Florida. It will be geared towards folks who have never carved. It will be a Saturday and Sunday class. See what it comes up with. Again, starting point. It's not going to take it all the way through. It's just a starting point. So this is something you could work off of. Copy and paste. Put the location, dates, time, age level, skill level. Curious about wood carving but don't know where to start? Join us for a fun and relaxing 2-day intro to whittling class designed especially for beginners. In this hands-on workshop, you'll learn the basics of whittling using just a knife and block of wood. No experience required, just a willingness to try something new, blah, 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 blah. Right? So this is something, if you give classes and you don't know what to say, you don't know how to write it to sound a certain way, you can ask it to write it. You can also ask it to refine it. Can you make this sound much more professional and less sophisticated? I've never met a sophisticated caricature carver. I wouldn't trust him. If there's not some good jokes in the whittling circle, I don't want to be a part of it. Discover the timeless art of wood carving in this introductory whittling workshop designed specifically for beginners. Yeah, we're gonna carve ugly cowboys, the timeless art of wood carving. But you can ask it to do it, and it will do it. Class is ideal for seeking a creative outlet, a meditative pastime, or an introduction to woodworking, working with their hands. So there it is. The other thing that I thought was really good with, and I think, again, where do you struggle? If you are somebody who struggles to write, and like I said, I don't struggle to write. I write a lot. I like putting ideas to paper. It's something that I enjoy. but let's say sometimes, my boss asked me for my bio for a business thing that we had to do. So they put up our photo and they ask, Josh Arroy went to so-and-so university, studied blah, 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 blah. I suck at writing those because I never know what to say. The most interesting thing about me is not where I went to school, so I don't know what to write. I could ask ChatGPT to help me. I could ask it to write my artist statement for a second. I need to write an artist statement. I am a caricature woodcarver who enjoys bringing the humor of everyday life and people into my work. I don't know. So with something like this, I would feed I would give it a lot more time into the prompt. And I think it's important to just pause for a second. We are using this at a very basic level. I have a friend of mine. He uses this in his business, but he uses it in a very creative way. And I'm not going to go into how he uses it, but suffice it to say that when him and his partners put stuff into these prompts and these tools, what they're typing in is substantive. They are being hyper detailed. They are probably spending several hours, if not days, rewriting, drafting the prompt so that the AI is looking at the right patterns in the right way for the right relationships in order to help drive the business forward. And they shared with me some of the responses, and it was incredible how much effort went into the initial prompt and what the AI was able to spit out. It was incredible, way beyond what we're looking at here. So that I say that to mean if I was going to do something like an artist statement, I would probably spend an hour or two writing out how I actually feel about my art. And then the chat is going to refine it for grammar, tone, readability, things like that, to make sure that what I feel is being communicated effectively. So here's what it came up with. As a caricature woodcarver, I find joy in capturing humor, personality, and the quiet absurdity of everyday life. My work is rooted in observation, people, gestures, habits, and quirks, and transformed through the blade into characters that feel both familiar and exaggerated. And it can go on, and you can refine this. So that's kind of where I want to leave it. I think that's more than enough to kind of get anyone that's never used it started. Again, recapping, using it for idea generation, which I think is the most direct example, especially if you're a teacher. If you're a woodcarving instructor, I think, and you're looking for new ideas to bring to your classes or something new to try, I don't think it's a bad place to kind of start feeding the brain. I mean, to Dave's kind of point, this just occurred to me, we look at Pinterest and we scroll through images for ideas for carvings all the time. How different is looking at an image on Pinterest versus asking an AI to come up with an image? I don't know the answer. It's just, half of getting an answer is asking the right question. So is that a worthwhile comparison? I don't know. But coming up with the ideas, helping you with the process of things. How do I go about doing things? And then helping you with your business. I've used AI to help write some captions for Instagram because I didn't know how to really say what it is that I wanted to say. I had the rough bones, but it didn't sound right. So AI helped with that. I've helped it to write Etsy listings for carvings I've done that I'm trying to sell. Can you write a listing communicating these ideas, and then I refine it. I always refine whatever it gives me. I'm always tweaking it. I almost always use it as a base, and then I go from there. So one other example of the process that I forgot to bring out here is. I think I saw somebody. Does it save your queries? Yes. And the scary part is it kind of starts to learn you in a way. If you ask it the same few questions, or you kind of keep asking the same kind of things, it starts to know when you ask another question that maybe lacks context, it kind of assumes the context based on your previous things. There we go. So here are some queries that I've done. Here is one example of process, a clay mock-up for carving. I was curious, a lot of us, how do you do a clay model for your carvings? If you don't know and you need somebody to walk you step by step, you can Google it. There's plenty of stuff online. But work has been written about it. Sculptors have been using clay for decades. So there's plenty of text that has been fed into the AI. So it can give you step by step on how to do a clay model, right? I will say, having worked with clay models, knowing how to do it is one thing. Learning how to sculpt it without messing the other part that you just spent time sculpting is another thing. So it only goes so far. But it does save your queries. So here is another idea for colors. I thought this was interesting. I just wanted to see what it could do in anticipation of the talk. I asked it for unique color ideas for Santas. I think this would be a very interesting thing to try. I've never seen a wood carving that had blue undertones before in a Santa. Maybe this is worth a very desaturated blue undertone, wintry looking Santa carving. Again, an idea. I probably could have searched through Pinterest or online to found this, but this was a tool that was generated. So we've teased it long enough, so I will show you what I came up with. Scroll all the way up. So this was really quick. I didn't spend a lot of time. I said, act as a caricature artist and wood carver plus cartoonist. Give me 10 ideas for caricature wood carving. And I gave it a limitation. I said, it's only going to be a bust and it's going to include hands. So these were what it gave me. We got grumpy fisherman, over-caffeinated office worker, pompous opera singer, grizzled biker grandpa, backwoods moonshiner, snooty wine critic. I really liked number 6. I could really see a carving the snooty wine critic. Gave me a couple other ones. Nervous magician with escaping rabbit. I have an idea for a wood carving for a magician, because those of you who saw my previous talk, I was a magician for a period of time, do a lot of card tricks. So I have several magician ideas, but there's not enough time. And then I asked, I want more of a cowboy thing. So I asked 10 ideas that were cowboy related. So it gave me 10 new ideas. I read through this, and the one that stuck out to me was number 7. Wild beard, toothless grin, gold nugget pinched in the fingers, the other hand holding a rusty pan, hat full of dirt and coins. I was like, that looks fun. So let's try that one for this talk. Same thing that we did before. I asked it to expand on number 7. So it gave me this mock-up. An old prospector who's clearly struck just enough gold to keep chasing the dream, but not enough to retire. His face tells the story, weathered, hopeful, and a little unhinged from too much time in the mountains. I fell in love with that concept. Right there, I thought that was fun. Not enough to retire, a little unhinged from too much time in the mountains. So I loved that. It made me think of, if you haven't seen the movie The Ballad of Buster Scruggs on Netflix, you're missing out. I think that is one of the best pieces of work I think the Coen brothers produced. It's like 8 short stories about the Old West. It is amazing. My wife hates it. But if you want some great ideas for carving, go watch that on Netflix. It is amazing. So it gave me a bunch of stuff, and I asked it to write a detailed prompt to use as a sketch. Same thing we did together. This was the prompt. It gave me a lot of story to work with. Right. I'm not going to read it all for the sake of time. And then I asked it to create the mock-up. And this is what it came up with. And I fell in love with this image. Everything about Pixar that I love as a Disney person, the look of surprise, the toothy grin, the old man. I was like, this is going to be the direction we go. But it was in a 3/4 view. So now again, I could have taken this and done it because I do a lot of artwork. But this was to illustrate the use of the tool. I did tweak it. I did say, what tools can I use to turn this into a 3D render? I was very curious if I could take this image and put it into another AI that would let me rotate the image and to see it before I took it to clay and wood. And then I thought, this is an intro to AI for carvers. This is not going to be something I use, so I scrapped it. I asked it about the order of carving the elements just to see if it would give me anything. It told me nothing an intermediate to advanced carver wouldn't already know, so I didn't find this particularly useful. So I'm going to skip through that. But then I asked it to take the mock-up and give it to me as the front and side profile, and this is what it gave. So I've got the front profile on the left. The side one's not so great. It's still 3/4 the body, but I can adjust it I could adjust the body from that image if I wanted to. But I did ask it to clarify. I need you to refine it. And notice in this prompt, I said, ask me if there's any clarifying information you need first. This is what makes it different than a Google prompt. If it needs to know something, I can tell it, what do you need to know? And it will say, it asks me, do you want the shoulders and chest to be shown in full side view flattened? Or is a slight rounding towards the viewer okay? Should both hands be visible from the side? Should the base follow the rotation too? So it asked for clarifying information. I gave it the clarifying information. I want it a full side view. I gave it some context. I want it to stay anatomically accurate. I should see some of the hand holding the nugget, but it should be mostly obscured by the hand holding the plate. Keep the base. And then it gave me the side view. Right? So now I took these images and I said, okay, we've got a rough start. And if you saw my previous talk on Procreate, I took it to Procreate and I created the pattern. So let me zoom out here. So that was the pattern. Now this is what I kind of got into. I had some help from a mentor of mine who gave me some wonderful guidance, a fantastic carver. The initial 3/4 view had some structural issues. Do I want the carving to be easy to break? Do I want it to be easy to carve? Where are the pitfalls? So we elected to separate the head. Separated the head so that I could have movement. I could turn the head because him looking at the nugget is going to be very important. And if I get that even slightly off, it's not going to look right. So we separated the head. We kept the body as one piece with the base. We separated the hat. If you've ever carved a cowboy hat, the brim of the hat is very, very fragile as it gets thin because it's cross-grained. So we separated the hat and we separated the hands. Carving the hands, there's going to be a lot of small little pieces there, especially around the nugget. I don't want to be carving cross-grain on the hands. So we separated the hands and then I used my hands to do the mock-up work for that. So kind of getting back to Dave's thing again, I have to know how to draw and draw hands pretty well to get to this point. and I have to have a sense of where the issues are going to be for carving, and that's not going to come from an AI. So where does one thing end and one thing begin? I don't know. So from there, we printed it out. So we come full circle here. I'm going to stop my share. We printed everything out. So I've got my hands, my patterns, the face, and we had that ready to go. But I still take it to clay. So the clay model's been a little rough. It's been sitting on my desk, but playing with the expression. Carving surprise is very tricky. In my experience, surprise can look very close to lunacy if you don't do it right. I tried carving surprise. I think, Dave, I think this was your class. I think we did a surprise and I carved mine and my guy looked like he was crazy, not like he was surprised. So we worked on that in clay first. But then we took it to the pattern. We took it to the bandsaw. And this is where we ended up here. So you can, his head turns a little bit. So it looks like he's looking at his gold nugget. So we carved the hands separate. So again, kind of getting to Dave, your question, the pattern was there, but carving a hand, I think that was hard. I mean, it wasn't hard. It took a lot of time, very slow. I probably have about 6 hours in this hand just from moving slow and not wanting to break anything. The plate was separate. Grain considerations, again, the hand was separate, grain considerations. And then when you carve things separately, obviously the things got to match. And that's the hardest part when you start separating stuff is the hands have to appear to be the same size. The hat, if this is, I learned this from Lynn Doty. I had done it once before, but this was one piece. I didn't separate the brim. Again, grain considerations, grains running straight up and down to give this some strength. The head comes off. We cut that down to fit into the hat. Notice that surprise and crazy look very similar. He looks a little nutty, but again, I think that fits the story. And then we have the body with the suspenders. And then we kept the base kind of like he's coming out of dirt. So all this goes together, attached with dowels, drilled in. Put it all back together here. We'll glue this, and then I can still screw it up because we haven't painted it yet. So we got probably 24 hours of carving into this guy, maybe more, but you can ruin it with the bad paint. So that'll take at least another several days, but it looks a lot different than the pattern too. That's another thing I think worth thinking about is that just because you have the pattern, it's not going to come out looking like the pattern. So what choices do you make? Try to get some movement in the shoulders. That came from the pattern, but also that came from class. Dave, many of y'all know Dave Stetson, student to the core, that knowing which shoulder is going to be higher, why, where the tension in the clothing is going to be. An AI may not get that right. So knowing that is another skill. So again, back to your question, Dave, I don't know. I think it required a lot of me beyond the pattern, beyond the idea that makes it warrant some consideration if this was to get in competition, but I don't know. So wrapping up, and this is I think my last thought. I was telling Blake and Dave, and Dave, this is what I was getting at too. There's something about the carving. I'm very pleased with it. I think from a technical standpoint, it's quite good. And that's very hard for me to say, just humility wise. I think there's a lot of character and fun in it. It was not easy to do, and it probably took more time than most of the carvings I've done before. And I put that alongside my miniatures. You know, this was 10 times easier than this guy was, for a lot of reasons. But at the end of it all, I don't feel as close to it as I thought I would. And I think part of that, and ask me in a couple months, I think part of that is because the idea and the drawing part didn't come from me. And it didn't come fully from me. And I think if you're an artist at the core and you really take pride in what you do, that's something to think about. That's something to really think about. You know, if you, it kind of reminds me is if you give something to somebody for free, they don't appreciate it. Not always true, but I think true a lot of the time. And I think there's a little bit of that in the carving. Now, don't get me wrong, I still like it. I think it's pretty good, but I don't. If you asked me which one of these two minis, you know, this one made the rounds a lot. Which carving do I like better? I'm gonna pick this one a lot more because this one was all me, and a little bit of influence, and this was, you know, I don't know, 75% me, if you want to call it that. So that's something to think about. It's a tool. It's a tool. So, like I said before, we get ideas from books, we get ideas from magazines, we get ideas from people, we get ideas from other artists. We recreate the pieces that we like other artists like that other carvers have carved, and we try to make them our own. Is AI a good place to get a tool, to get to idea? It's up to you. You get to decide that. But I don't think it's going anywhere. And so using it as a way to drive your work forward is a worthwhile consideration. Like I said, there were things in this carving that I'd never done. I learned how to carve hands and to look at hands and to think about the planes of hands because of this project that started with an AI idea. Is that a benefit? I think so. You know, I feel very comfortable with carving a hand more so than I did before. Faces I'd done 1,000 of. You know, a hand holding a plate, that was a new skill. So thinking about that and thinking a couple moves ahead, that was something else that this brought. So yeah. So anyway, that's me wrapping up. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions. But thank you guys for making the time on a Saturday, and I'm around. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook. So if you guys have any questions or if I can be of any assistance, let me know. Or if you just want to wax philosophical on the end of the world and the rise of the machines and AI, let's go for it.
Hey, Josh, you mentioned it's a tool.
Yep.
Just like if you go to Pinterest to look for ideas, it's just another way to do it. It's another tool. It puts it in a different perspective.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that's the only thing it's taking from you that you might do from Pinterest is every artist. I actually saw a post, an artist I follow on Instagram, and I could find it. I'll send it to you, Dave. Artists are full of hypocrisy. We say that you got to come up with original ideas, but every great artist, every Disney artists, they have reference material. You know, you go on Pinterest and you want to carve a face, you'll go, an artist will get 30 reference images for a certain pose from photographers and other artists before they even start theirs. Is there much of a difference between an AI generating the pose for you and giving you the bare bones, or you searching for 30 other reference photos for you to put on your wall before you start your carving? I don't know.
I'll refer to a past word of wisdom. The good artists borrow, the great artists steal.
Yeah. So think of AI as stealing from a lot of data. Or revising. It's not, and that's important to note too. Like I said at the beginning, it's not copying. It's looking for patterns. So whatever that's worth. But any other questions out there?
I think you pretty well covered it, Josh. There's a lot of discussion surrounding the process of submitting it into competition and how people feel about that. And again, I think we can discuss that for hours and really not come up with a great idea. There was one suggestion that maybe we have a AI assisted category, but it makes you wonder how many people are actually going to use it for that. And if they do, are they going to admit that they've used it? So that's the other problem.
And to your point, I've thought about it. Like, is this worth entering into competition? I don't have a good answer. I'd probably be reaching out to you and Dave and Bruce and all those guys and just be like, what do you think? Because I mean, like I said, it takes a lot of knowledge to get to just the ugly clay mock-up and to this. And if that's 80% of the work, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, as you and I discussed.
So here's a thought that pops in my head. What's the process of taking this from where you're at, the AI generated thing, to a CNC machine? To Dave's question, how do you know that carving wasn't done on a CNC machine now?
Well, you can tell.
Is there that big of a difference?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
One, I think too, like to that point, right? There's a thing in magic that I always tie it back to magic. Is a trick can be too perfect, right? A trick being too perfect as far as magicians are concerned is a bad trick, because there has to be a slight moment of well, maybe. Same thing with a carving, right? Like, I think if a CNC, it can be too perfect. I'll tell you, right? I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure Disney's got some wood carving that at one of their stores that they're amazing, but I think they look too good to be true. They look too good to be hand carved. I don't know if they're CNC'd. I can't say that, but they're wood and they look really, really, really too perfect. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Raymond Kidman, you're one of your favorite guy there. He's showed some difference. The CNC carvings and the regular carvings. There's not a whole lot of difference between some of those carvings.
Oh, yeah, no. And a lot of those, I mean, again, where does the line get drawn? Because you can get CNC, but then you got to take it to the blade and clean up. I mean, it's not a pretty, and you can still screw a lot up in cleaning up a CNC carbon if you don't know what you're doing with grain and knife sharp, having sharp tools and whatnot. So, and then I know, Ray carved the originals. So then you get into, taking your work and mass producing it.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
Josh, as you and I discussed the other day when we were meeting before this meeting to prepare for it, the goal of International Association of Woodcarvers has always been to try to get people carving. So it's to share wood carving, to show how somebody else can get involved in wood carving. And like we talked about before the meeting, our hopes is we share this out on social media, out on YouTube. Some techie person comes across, says, oh, it's AI, let me take a look at it. And then all of a sudden now they're interested in wood carving. And that's kind of the thought process that I went through when you and I were talking about developing this was, what's it going to take for us to get that person out there that's not carving, get them with a tool or a knife in their hand and actually get them carving. So I think you've accomplished that. And, it's a lot of information to think about. It's a fascinating topic, and I think you can really explore you know, whatever you want to do with it. And it's gonna give you some, like Dave said, tools to be able to put in your back pocket and use as you develop some of these carvings. So I just want to say thank you for that. There's a lot of information there in the chat. We can provide that chat if anybody wants to go out and read that. A lot of good information and a lot of conversation that we don't really have time to get to. But I just want to say thank you, Josh, for preparing. You can tell you prepared quite a bit for this. You put in the work. That's what makes these meetings fantastic, is somebody like you willing to donate your time, donate your skill to try to further wood carving. And I just want to say thank you for that, and thank you for all the effort you put in. Want to remind you all that our next meeting will be on August the 9th. So we're going to take a little time off, get regenerated, go on vacation, be back on August the 9th, and starting in September, we'll be right back to doing weekly meetings. So hope these are beneficial. Go out, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Check out the library that's out there. We got over 250 videos available, all of them around wood carving, and hopefully it generates some interest and some thought as far as carvings that you can do. And we look forward to seeing you all hopefully out there in Colorado Springs in September. So just want to say thank you again for coming on. This has been the International Association of Woodcarvers, and we will see you all on August the 9th. Thank you all.
So
yeah, we'll turn it around.
no, just kidding. No, we won't.
Just in case, because they're like,
yeah, no.
You know, it's how it is. All right, yeah, just we'll do a fun intro and say, hey, you know, hey, I'm Josh Arroyo. I'm coming to you today. Just want to show you guys how we're want to welcome you all to the International Association of Woodcarvers. I'm going to show you how to get from this to this to, and then I'll just cut it at that point.
okay, sounds good.
All right. So we got you whenever you want to go and do as many times as you want.
All right. Oh, printer's going on. Stop.
And turn the printer off. No.
I mean, thing works only 50% of the time.
Let's turn it off, turn it back on. It'll work 100%. No, wait.
That's
That's the way it works in my office.
Exactly.
All right, we're ready.
All right. So you
Hey guys, this is Josh Arroyo with the International Association of Woodcarvers. Today, we're going to show you how to go from this to this to this. Stay tuned.
All right, let's do it one more time.
Mm.
And when you do the from this, because that's from your phone, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I should take the phone out. So
yeah,
they
so
don't...
show phone, because it's like he's going from his wallet. Was he paying somebody to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's my wife. Should I take?
Yeah, talk to your wife. I won't.
But no, it's a photo of my. I was like,
Oh.
gotta go from this.
It'll be bright enough that you won't be able to see it. Yeah, how do you go from a cracked iPhone to?
I know. Here, we'll change the
To a
background.
masterpiece.
Here we go. There we go. Change the background. No, why? You'd think this would be the easiest part. I mean,
Oh, good. Yeah. Good.
Just know that he's recording all this, and it'll end up at the end of the
I
video.
know this is what we'll get.
This is kind of why we egg these things on. No, well.
All right, we got it. We're ready.
And when you do the final thing, when you go to this and you're getting ready to put up the actual thing, don't even put it up.
Okay.
Just move
Make
your
it easy.
hands forward and we'll just, you know, I'll cut it at that point.
All right.
That's good.
Perfection.
I like it.
There you go.
That'll be fun.
Boom,
Yeah.
boom.
I might just put a big circle with a line through it over the when you throw it up there, so that maybe get some more intrigue or something to kind of
Yeah.
what? So
What
I'll
is
play
it?
around with
What?
Or you can blur it out. Just blur his hand out.
yeah, we can blur his hand down. I'll do something.